post-match chat with chaps for that Millwall podcast where it finished at Vicarage Road, Watford 2, Millwall 2. And I think on the balance of the game, probably a fair result, a draw. However, just sort of bitterly disappointing, to be honest, when you're a couple of minutes away from winning the game and you can't hold on. But overall, I think if it was the other way around and we'd have scored with the last minute, we'd be looking at things probably differently. And I think that moment where we did go 2-1 up was a really good moment for the sort of two odd thousand Millwall fans that were there. I was there yesterday, so thank you, Alex, for sorting me out. If you're listening, mate, managed to get a ticket. I wasn't originally going to go for various different reasons, and then managed to get hold of a ticket last minute. I won't go into too much detail, but a combination of having to pick the ticket up, traffic meaning that I was quite late, and some very jobs worth people at Watford ticket office meant I missed the first 20 odd minutes of the game. So by the time I got in, it was 1-1. So it was I missed the first sort of two goals, and I'll talk a little bit about them because I've watched them back, but I wasn't there in the moment. So my sort of perspective on the game probably starts from around 20 minutes onwards. But we do go 1-0 down, and I could hear I have to say, our roar was louder when I'm outside and I'm listening to. You're not actually sure. I thought they went 2-0 up because of how loud the roar was. So fair play to the fans that made a right racket when we did equalise. But they go 1-0 up. And I've just realised I haven't actually talked through the team. So I'll go back a little bit before we go into when they went 1-0 up, and I'll talk about the lineup. So lineup was, to be honest, I think pretty much when everyone saw that team sheet, we're like, well, what is he playing? Has he gone rogue? What is he doing? And essentially, from what I could make out, he went with so obviously Bart in goal, a back four right to left, returning Danny McNamara on the right, Wes Harding, Jake Cooper, and Murray Wallace on the left of the back four. Casper Denor and the returning George Saville. So George Saville is free. There's obviously been a lot of noise to get him back in the lineup, and I'll start by saying I thought he was my man of the match yesterday. From loads of different angles, but we'll talk about that later. But he was brilliant, George Saville. So he came back into the side, obviously picking up from Billy Mitchell. Alan Campbell ruled out through illness, we are told. Then obviously Zian Fleming, and then the front three was returning again, George Honeyman for his first start of the season on the left. On the right, Brooke Norton-Cuffy in a more advanced role, and Tom Bradshaw through the centre. So what that told me is that, first of all, there's probably more injuries in the squad that we know about. That's the first thing that starting lineup told me. Second one was, again, in one way, a bit of bravery to go with a four at the back. But in another angle, two quite potentially defensive players in forward areas. We know George Honeyman is not like an out-and-out winger, and we also know Brooke Norton-Cuffy is ultimately a right back. So maybe they were doubling up on Watford's left-hand side, which, to be fair, in the first half, a lot of their play did come down that left-hand side, so maybe it didn't work. But that was the lineup that started the game. Again, paper-thin squad. Tom Leahy, Adam Malachi, fresh off his new contract, and then Kamal Grant. Don't know much about him. Young 20-year-old centre-back, I think he is, or he's certainly a defender on the bench. And that just shows you, right, the fact that we have to have those lads on the bench. And, I'm not to discredit them. It's great that they're being involved, but that should be by choice and not by force. And I think at the moment it's probably the latter. But anyway, so game kicks off. I miss it, but they get a goal. So a bit of pressure is building up. So a couple of balls across the box. The ball eventually makes its way over to the right-hand side, where I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Kone or Sema, potentially. Twisting and turning, gets a shot away, and it's sort of quite a comfortable sort of position for Bart. But he doesn't get down low enough quickly, and it bounces off his chest. What I will say, though, having watched it back from a lot of different angles, it does go through a lot of bodies. So I'm going to talk a bit about Bart later on, because I think Bart had like a really bipolar game. At times I thought he was outstanding, and at times I actually felt he uh, was not very good at all. A lot of people instantly blamed Bart, I think, for this, but having watched it back, you could forgive him the fact that it's come for a lot of bodies. Should he deal with it? Absolutely. But to put it solely on him, this is the blame, I think is not quite fair. What then happens is the ball ricochets out and it goes to Cooper. And what Cooper should be doing here is he doesn't know what's behind him. Obviously, don't know what was communicated between Bart and Cooper. It all happens in a split second. He should just be launching it, even if it goes out for a corner. He doesn't. He tries to sort of clear it back past him. As he does that, Aspria's on rushing, clears it straight into Aspria, and it ricochets straight into the net. For me, that's a Cooper error, that goal. Yes, Bart could do better with the initial shot, but it's defending 101, really. And for me, I think Cooper needs to take more of the responsibility for that goal. We're 1-0 down. How do we respond? Well, we respond with a goal of our own. So I think we have a corner. The ball then gets recycled. Casper De Norre whips in a lovely ball. Tom Bradshaw flick onto the back post. And it's a deft header at the back post from Zian Fleming, who then gives it to the fans after I think he slips celebrating. And it's 1-1. And as I say, the noise that you lot made was something to behold outside that ground, as I was still very frustrated not being able to get into the ground. So it's 1-1. At that point, I do come into the ground, and I think for the first sort of 10 minutes, I was there. I felt we were quite comfortable. I felt that George Honeyman, in particular, had a fairly good first half. I thought he was good defensively. I felt that he was had a real engine on him, and him and Murray were sort of connecting quite well down that left-hand side, defensively anyway. I thought Fleming, his hold-up play was good. I felt we looked quite comfortable, but then I think that for the latter sort of 15 minutes of the first half, it definitely shifted in their favour. And in fairness, they had a couple of really good opportunities. Probably the most noticeable one was, again, a bit of pinball in our box. And there's an effort. I think I can't remember if it was a header or not, to be perfectly honest. But it's a close range effort, and Bart just sort of it's an instant reaction, and this is what Bart is superb at. It's an instant reaction, and Bart just sticks his hands out, and it is an outstanding save. Yes, it is kind of almost straight at him, but the reaction, the time to actually, and if you watch it back in slow motion, he kind of moves and then it sort of carries on after, because that's how quick the ball was coming towards him. So a super save from Bart there, and more than makes up for the error for the first goal. And to be honest, the sort of as we close out the first half, they are kind of peppering us a little bit. But we go in at 1-1. And I think, 1-1 at a place like Watford. And we also need to remember, coming into this game, we were without a win for, I think is it 3 or 4 games? 2 points in the last 3 games coming into this. Whereas Watford have got 7 from the last 9. They've won 2 of their last 3. So, their tails are up. Make no mistake about it, Watford has some very, very good players. They are a fairly expensively assembled squad, not as much as it used to be. And actually, if you look at their signings this summer, they didn't spend a lot of money, and they sort of got 50 million from the sales of João Pedro, Ismail Assar, Kabasele, etc. So what they did this summer is they actually added a few sort of probably players that may be a slightly different recruitment strategy. The likes of Jake Livermore in the centre of the park, Jamal Lewis on loan at left back. 2 in their own perspectives, good signings, and probably adding a little bit more aggression and steel, maybe is the right word. I don't know, but just a bit more solidarity. And I was actually more impressed with Watford yesterday than I have been for quite a few years. I felt that they have definitely progressed, as I say, by rather than just being a team full of very flair, tricky, good players that when things are going for them, they can really look very dangerous. But actually, they didn't want to really go the other way. I feel like they've definitely added that, and they've got some fantastic young players. Espria is one in particular. I think it's a 19-year-old Colombian that I don't think they paid that much money for at all. So I think Watford are a half decent side. We're 1-1 at half time. Second half, I felt for the first sort of, I'm probably generalizing a bit too much, but probably the first sort of 15, 20 minutes, again, I felt that they dominated. I remember one shot that stung the palms of Bart. I remember quite a few times the ball flashed across goal, and from the sort of penalty box, they would put it wide or over the bar. A lot of opportunities, a lot of openings for Watford, and I think they'll be disappointed they didn't take the lead. And before we go 2-1 up, make no mistake about it, we could have been 3-1 down. Is the point I'm getting at? Excuse me. And but they didn't take their chances. And then I think we have an opportunity with Ryan Longman before we do get our second. So Brooke Norton-Cuffy, some really good work down the right-hand side. And it was really interesting because Brooke Norton-Cuffy often seems to, I don't know whether he likes a challenge or what, but he's quicker than most players. But at times, rather than trying to go round the outside and beat them for pace, he'll almost run into them. But he has this knack of being able to get through them a lot of the time. Obviously, not always. In this instance, he does. He managed to get through about 3 or 4 players. It then breaks to Ryan Longman, and it's a really good effort. And it's narrowly just past the post. And I felt we started to really grow into the game and started to push them back and started to create opportunities of our own. And then we get a corner, again, through good work from Brooke Norton-Cuffy. And I think it was actually Wes Harding who wins the corner. And then Sav comes over, and the fans really, we love George Savile anyway, don't we? But, the whole game, he was in the referee's face. And I think it was Ken Semmer or someone sort of dived to try and get them a penalty in the first half, and he was giving it to them. That's what we love, right? And that's what we've missed, real sort of steel and leadership. And Sav played the whole 90 minutes, and I was a little bit surprised he didn't get taken off when Denor got taken off for Billy Mitchell. But actually, it turned out to be the right, because obviously Sav was A, returning to the first team, and B, on a booking. But it turned out to be the best decision, because Sav just grew and grew into the game, winning free kicks, just using his intelligence. And it's his corner that is on the money. It's a super corner. I think we only had 2 or 3 the whole game, but this one, right on the money. And if you watch, I think it's Lusa, something like that. One of their more expensive players, a £10 million plus player. He just doesn't follow Harding. And if you watch it, it's a fairly bread and butter header for Harding, I think, once he realises his player's not going to go with him. And we go 2-1 up. I think it's on 85, 86. And, our away stand just goes absolutely mental. And when I actually see it from the camera's perspective, it was a brilliant moment. I think definitely one of the better sort of celebrations in a while. Let's be honest, we've not had much to celebrate. And I have to say, I know it's not a far trip, but to get over 2,000 Millwall fans there yesterday, considering obviously how we're playing at the minute and what's going on, I think, as I say, credit to each and every single one of us that went. But we go 2-1 up, and then we have an opportunity to go 3-1 up. And again, I think the ball pumped into the box. I think it's a free kick that Savile wins. Savile takes the free kick. It's a superb free kick. It's right into the penalty area, but then sort of bends backwards. It makes its way into the 6-yard box, and Backman comes for it. Cooper goes for it. Cooper wins the header, and it's going in. And one of their defenders somehow manages to head it onto the bar. It goes out of harm's way, and then it eventually breaks to Fleming. And yes, there is a crowd of bodies there, but he puts it wide. He's got to keep that effort low, hard, and on target. And of course, that's what he's trying to do. But the execution wasn't there, and we could have gone 3-1 up. It would have flattered us, no doubt, 100%. We would not have deserved to go 3-1 up. But this is football. This is how fine the margins are. And then, unfortunately, I think it's the 91st, 92nd minute. Was it Rajovic? I don't know. I can't remember his exact name. causes heartache for Millwall, for the Millwall players, because he makes it 2-2, and the goal. My gut instinct, first of all, said that's Brooke Norton-Cuffy. He switched off. He didn't go with his man. Then a few people around me and having some conversations were saying maybe it's Danny Mack, because he could have intercepted the pass. Then, actually, if you look at the player that ends up overlapping Jamal Lewis, it's the Lutzer lad. He actually comes from the centre of midfield and runs out to the wide. It isn't the actual left winger. So then it's like, well, that wasn't actually Norton-Cuffy's man. I probably need to watch it a few more times, but what I would say is it's the fact that it's get my words out. The fact that 3 or 4 players in that moment all switch off, and I think that each of them could probably collectively do better. And if there was better communication, you pick him up, he's moved on over to you, etc. That goal doesn't happen. But the ball is whipped into the box. Danny Mack's doing everything he can to get there. He can't quite get there. The ball comes over the top of Harding, over the top of Cooper, and Rajovic is unmarked. Decent header down. Don't really think Bart can do better with that one. And it's 2-2. The game kind of peters out. We had a couple of free kicks, but don't really come to anything. The game finishes 2-2. The players do look dejected, and I understand that. At the end of the day, they're gutted. They thought they were on their way to give Baldy Barrett's first 3 points, but it wasn't meant to be. Unfortunately, now that's only 2 points from the last 3 points from the last 4. It's the form isn't good. But what I would say is we're entertaining at the moment. We are, 2-2. Yesterday, obviously, the Preston game was fairly entertaining. The Blackburn game was entertaining. To be fair, even towards the end of the whole game, when Rowett was still here, we do seem to be a bit more entertaining going forwards. But this Millwall team was built on like defensive solidarity, and I just feel we haven't got that. We just seem to be carved open constantly. And I find myself every game saying, but they've got really good attacking players. But I'm saying that every single game. So either we're the only team that doesn't have all these attacking options that I keep talking about, or every team in this league has got them, and we need better defenders to be able to cope with it. I don't really know, but every single game you look at, Blackburn have got expensive players, Watford have got expensive players, Hull have got expensive players. Like, it just feels like every single game, this is what we're talking about, but this is what we're up against, and this is why, if we want to compete at this level. And I feel for the board a bit, because we spent 5-6 million in the summer, if the fees that we are paid are to be believed. And I don't actually think we're as far on as the club would have hoped. I'm not as far on as we would have hoped. And is that down to the fact that we recruited the wrong players? Is it down to the fact that we were overperforming so much last year that actually we needed a lot more than the 5-6 million? What is it? I don't really know. But this is the Championship. Every team is going to have attacking flair players. And you could argue Imaku, SA could be ours. But they're young, they're raw. These aren't players that have come in for 5-10 million that other clubs have, right? So we have to find a way of beating these teams. But overall, I think, yesterday a point is probably what, a fair share of the spoils. I felt that there were some good performances. And the only thing I would say in terms of Barrett is, personally, when he brought Nisbet on, I would have brought Imaku on, because I felt at that stage, bring Imaku on and just play on the line, because their 2 centre-backs were absolute units, but they weren't particularly quick. And Nisbet wasn't really going to win much against them in terms of a physical battle. I have to say as well, I keep saying I have to say, that Watford were one of the biggest physical sides I've seen in a long time. Every single player was a unit, or very fit and athletic. Again, which counts for a lot in this league. And I do think you'll see Watford start to climb the table. Be interesting to see what you think, Watford fans, based on yesterday. So look, 2-2. Will that be Barrett's last game in charge? I can't see him getting the job, if I'm honest. I don't know who will get the job, but I think whoever does come in, as I've said before, we're going to need to be patient with them because I think they're going to try to instill uh, probably a different style of playing, a different identity, but that's either going to take a lot of coaching or it's going to take a few transfer windows to get it right. And again, the club will have to dig deep. So I think we're going to have to be patient. I think one of the first things that they need to do, though, is to try and give us a bit more shape and defensive resilience again, because that's what this team was built on. And I feel we've lost that. And I don't really know why. Is it that what is it? Is it leadership? Are we missing Hutch? Are the players not as good as they were? Are they switching off at vital moments? Is it confidence? What is it? I don't know. That's luckily for me, that's not my job to figure out. But I think the new manager that comes in, that's one thing he's got to address, instantly. Because I think if you do that, plus you get a couple more bodies back, Nisbet gets fully fit. I'm not quite convinced he's been fully fit all season, but we get him fully fit. I'll talk a bit about Bart in a moment. You get Sarkic back. Watmore is definitely a player that I think even for 20, 30 minutes is good. And then you can add a few more in January. Then all of a sudden, I think we start to look a bit better. But at the moment, I haven't really walked away from a game, maybe other than Preston, where I've walked away thinking, we deserve to win that. Honestly, I haven't. And that's concerning because I've talked before about the amount of chances we've created. I think we're just lucky that there are 3 teams in this league, although now QPR have set their manager, and if they go for Warnock, we know how good his record is at changing things. Or did they go for Rowett? Wouldn't be surprised. He's been linked with them many times before. That'd be funny because Rowett was talking about how he missed being closer to his family. So that'd be an interesting dynamic if that was to happen. But anyway, don't talk about other clubs. But that's where we are. I think. I think this season, to be honest, will be about finishing mid-table and trying to, evolve into the style of the new manager. I don't think we're going to be anywhere near the playoffs. Hopefully, we'll have enough about us to steer clear of the relegation zone. And the fight in this group is definitely there. So, I think we'll be fine. But I think what I'm saying is I don't think, of course, the new manager will come in and their goal will be to get us in the playoffs. I don't think we're good enough. I don't think that we're really a top 10 side this year. Mid-table is probably about right. And if we can finish mid-table, be comfortable, but at the same time experiment a bit, I think we should all be happy with that. Anyway, players. So Bart, look, the first goal, possibly his part to play. But actually, the problem I've got with Bart is not really the first goal. The problem I've got with Bart is his lack of ability to command the area due to the fact he's so immobile. His shot stopping, his reaction saves, and his positioning is still as good as it always was. As I said before, his reflexes are still very, very good. He always takes up a pretty good position, which is really, really good. And obviously, we saw a couple of decent saves yesterday. That's not in question for me. When he has to move his feet and when he has to be commanding, even at times he'll come and punch the ball because he's not confident in catching it. Although, to be fair, a lot of goalkeepers are doing that these days. I think we don't understand the impact that has on the defence, knowing that your keeper is not going to be able to be commanding just because he's just not mobile as he once was. And I'm not digging Bart out. I think ultimately it's just a sign of age. But having and at times yesterday, with his kicking, there was one time where he got closed down and it was a whisker away from being ricocheted into the net. It just doesn't fill me with confidence. So that must rub off on the players. So I think that is something. But on the flip side, he made some superb saves again yesterday, just like he did against Blackburn. So look, I would continue with him. I just think that I'm saying that the impact that having a goalkeeper that can't command his area will definitely be having an impact on the defence. The back four, as I said, I don't blame Danny Mack for that last goal. I thought Danny Mack's overall performance was really good. I really, really do. I thought defensively he was really sound, and he should take confidence from that because Jamal Lewis at this level is he's no mug. He's a good player. They've got some very, very good players, and I felt he dealt with them very, very well. So I thought Danny Mack had a really good game, to be fair. So he was good. I thought Harding and Cooper. Obviously, I've talked about Cooper for the first goal. I thought overall they were decent. I thought Harding was probably the better of the two, but he did make one or two mistakes where he kind of tries to bring the ball out, or he has a heavy touch. But he's been turning into a bit of a cult hero there, and I love him. I think he's just, as I said to you before, he just seems like a really nice bloke. He just gets it. He wears his heart on his sleeve. You know, he scored 2 goals because he has the desire to get in those positions, and that's the sort of character you want at Millwall. So I really like Wesley Harding. Not so sure on the celebration, Wes, but I really like him. And for me, when Hutch and Leonard are back, I don't really think Harding deserves to be dropped because that would be the obvious one. Left back Murray Wallace, I thought he was all right. I thought he was, he wasn't spectacular, but I don't think he was necessarily at fault for anything. I thought he did fairly well. Casper Denor was good. I thought he wasn't as commanding as normal, but he was still good. He still had a half decent game. George Saville, man of the match for me by a mile. He just everything. His performance was good. He calmed things down when he needed to. He crunched a few of their players when he needed to. He was in the referee's ear. He was in their players' ear. He was winning clever free kicks. He put the ball into the box for the goal. I thought his all-round game was just brilliant. And that is why he should be in the team. So for me, absolute no-brainer. Saville, man of the match. Norton Cuffy, I thought his first half wasn't great, but I thought the second half he really grew into the game and was really quite effective. Obviously had a part to play in the last goal. Fleming, I thought was a lot more impactful in the game than he has been. I think I said that he impacted the Preston game, and I think he impacted yesterday a lot. He's just got such a way of sort of shrugging players off. They were a big physical side, and no one really was beating him from a physicality perspective. I thought he was good yesterday, and I thought he worked really hard, and obviously got his goal. So credit where credit's due. I thought Zian had a decent game. Honeyman, I thought had a really good sort of first 40, 50 minutes, but then I think he started to peter off. To be expected, he's not played much football, and he was rightly substituted for Ryan Longman on the 60th minute. But I like Honeyman. He gives us an energy, an aggression, a tempo. So I do like Honeyman. And then Bradshaw, obviously a good flick on for the goal, but I think, I don't know, he just doesn't seem to be as effective at the moment. Is it the style change that we're seeing with Barrett? Is it the teams we played against? Is he picking up a knock? Is he just out of form? Don't know, but he doesn't seem to be as effective as he once was. And I feel for him because he works his absolute tits off every single game. That is never in question. But he'll be frustrated because obviously he'll want a goal. So, but yeah, look, that's where we are. We're 18th in the table, which doesn't look too pretty, but we're still 6 points off the playoffs. As I said, I personally think that'll be out of reach this season, but hopefully before the Sheffield Wednesday game, we should have a new manager in place. I know nothing, but my money is probably on. I'm not sure if we'll be able to entice Muscat. My money's probably on Bill. Don't really know how I feel about that. There's been lots of rumours in terms of who's been interviewed and things, but Bill was definitely one of them. Will QPR sacking their manager hurry our decision along? Don't know. But look, at the end of the day, I've not done too much research into playing styles and things because the manager will turn up and we'll have to support him regardless whoever it is, and we'll have to give him time. So, look, let's see what happens on Southampton on Saturday. I think it'd be a good game. I think that they are a very unique side in terms of the way they play. They leave themselves very defensively vulnerable, but they also can, if they can beat your press, they can definitely cause a lot of problems going the other way. And they're a Premier League outfit in terms of the squad they've still got assembled there. So let's see. Looking forward to it. Thanks very much for listening as always. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.